everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning for another Front Porch Conversations here at ACV at Advent Christian Village. And I have two guests this morning, Phyllis Doty and Catherine Roundtree. And during this time, you're going to find out why the two of them are here with me. They have shared a lot of history and a lot of stories to tell. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
And let's start with how you met and where.
Started out at Columbia Bible College in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. And we were roommates. And that's where we met. And that was the beginning of who knows what would ever going to happen to that.
And Catherine, do you agree with that story?
I agree with that. It was in the early 60s. It was in the early 60s.
In the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from there, your lives have kind of gone back and forth, intertwining, but we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. But Catherine, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in South Alabama, a little town called Evergreen, and left there to go to nurses training after high school.
And that was in Columbia, South Carolina?
No, that was Alabama.
No, I mean, but you went to
Nurses training, I went to Atlanta.
Oh, okay, so that was before or after you were...
That was before I met Phyllis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Phyllis, what about you?
Well, I was born in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and lived there for the first 3 years of my life, and then we moved up to Englewood, Colorado, which is just south of Denver. And that's where I grew up. And I still think of Colorado as my home.
And what about you, Catherine? Where do you think of as home?
Not anywhere, really.
Okay. What are some of your fondest childhood memories?
Oh, it was a little town, and it was quiet, and summer days like this were wonderful because I didn't have to go to school, and we just enjoyed the summer. Those are some of my fondest memories. Some more really are winter times, though, when you running home to a kitchen that was warm with a big stove in it. That was great.
And did you share growing up with brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have two families, really. My parents were divorced when I was, right after I was born, I think, not long after. And they both married again. So I have two families. Really, my mother's set and my father's set, but I grew up with my mother and that set, and there were two girls and a boy. So I only got acquainted with the other bunch in the last 15 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And Phyllis, siblings?
Yes, I have a brother and a sister. They're both younger. So I'm the big sister, which may be good or bad. I can see that.
It depends on whose version.
And growing up in Colorado, I think my most memorable things in my childhood is playing in the Garden of the Gods and in the Red Rocks and the amphitheater and going to the mountains. I love the mountains. I still do. And I just need to go back to Colorado every now and then and just get a little mountain fix.
That's kind of like me living near the coast. I always say I need a big water fix.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and then you met in college.
Yes.
And what was your reason for attending Columbia, Phyllis?
Well, I had known from the time I was a little kid that I wanted to be a missionary. And so when I graduated from high school, I thought, okay, now what do I do if I'm going to be a missionary? How's that happen? And I had an opportunity to go to Mexico and work with missionaries and teach their kids while their mother was sick. So when I came back from Mexico, I had already started at a school, a Rockmont Bible College in Colorado, but that wasn't really working out too well for me, and so I wanted to go someplace else. So I got the catalogs from every Christian school I could even find, looked through all of them, and Columbia Bible College was the cheapest.
Okay. And Catherine, so after nursing school, you went to Columbia.
Yes, right. But I wasn't a Christian. Or at least I had not given my life to the Lord before nurses training. It was after I graduated that I really began to look for God. And after I gave Him my life, then it was a little like, Phyllis, now what, you know? and I figured he wanted me to be to go overseas. So, and the first thing I had to do was learn something about the Bible. I knew zilch. So that's how a nurse living in the nurse's residence with me, and she knew that Columbia Bible College was a very good place, and so she kept pushing me toward it, and wanted to go visit. So we went to visit, and I was miserable the whole time because I knew that's where the Lord wanted me, and I didn't want to go because it was even further from home. So, but I did.
Good.
And that's what about Phyllis.
And how long were you there?
Well, we were roommates for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then that after the second year, I think you got the house over there by the campus.
I went home for a year, and then my whole family. But Phyllis was already in Wycliffe, and so
Before I graduated.
before, yeah.
Yeah.
When I moved in the room with her, you were already
I was
connected.
thinking that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was how I found out about Wycliffe, and because of that, ended up joining Wycliffe.
And for those of you who are watching that might not be aware, Wycliffe is Wycliffe Bible Translators. And we have interviewed several other people, and they've told us more about that.
Okay, good.
But tell us today about how your training started once you had joined Wycliffe.
Well, it was the Bible College, and then they had they called it Summer Institute of Linguistics out in Oklahoma, and you went for the summer, and it was, I don't know, 10 weeks maybe, or 12.
I go 2 summers.
You had to go 2 summers, first and second, and you learned about how to analyze a language, write it up linguistically, and that sort of thing. And that's where we went.
And they had some other things too, like anthropology classes and literacy work, and they taught us how to do translation work, and of course everything was based on linguistics, so it's really a linguistics school. But I was really interested in the anthropology more than anything.
Well, in those early years, we only had about 3 weeks of each of those things.
That's right.
Now you get full-blown whatever, spend several years studying most of that stuff.
And then then I believe, Phyllis, you mentioned going to jungle camp.
Right, I went to jungle camp after.
That's a very fun thing.
Jungle camp, I thought, boy, I had joined the right place. They start you off with the best vacation in your entire life. Go to jungle camp for, 3 months or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I had the time of my life. I love jungle camp.
And where did you do that?
Southern Mexico, Chiapas.
And
Yeah.
Catherine?
I went, but we didn't go the same year. But
I was already in Guatemala when Catherine
yeah,
went through.
right.
Yeah.
And I loved it too. It was a vacation.
And then you came to visit me.
After the
After jungle camp, she came down to Guatemala to visit me where I was working in the Quiche language. Oyama.
And so that was your first assignment with Wycliffe.
And was with
And what about you,
Guatemala.
I went to Suriname, which is Dutch Guyana, which is in South America, which is the middle one of those 3 little Guyanas at the top of the country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you there?
I went in 68 and finished in 90.
And while you're living in those areas, your responsibility was to help translate the Bible.
Well, first of all, you have to learn the language.
Oh, that would be important.
Get it into writing, establish an alphabet. Because where Catherine was, you probably established the alphabet. Where I went, it was already established. Because a lot of work had been done already in Quiche in Guatemala. And so I was just working in a dialect of Quiche, and a lot of the work like that, a lot of linguistic work had been done. We just sort of had to fine-tune it for our area. But then learn the language, and then we started working on Bible stories, so we could tell a story in the language. Let it go from there. Let it evolve into a real translation project. But the first few years are spent really just in trying to handle and manage and work well and comfortably in the language.
And to do that, you have to make good relations, I would think, with the people living there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's #1 priority.
And how does that happen, Catherine?
Oh, well, for the Sarawakans, that was no problem. The Sarawakans were descendants of escaped slaves, so they really were Africans. Quite friendly, quite extroverted, and so they're at your house all the time. they're talking to you and demanding sort of that you answer them. So you learn very quickly. You learn the language very quickly. Some groups where the people are not so accessible is not that easy, but for us it was.
Yeah.
And the language itself was not hard to get into because it's a Creole language.
Oh, okay. And there, did you work with anybody who lives at the village or has lived at the village?
No, I worked with Naomi Glock. She lives in Tucson.
Okay. Well, I know we'll talk about it a little later in our interview time, but of how a number of Wycliffe people have come to live at the village.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So from there, Phyllis, where was your next assignment?
Well, I went back to the United States and I worked in the recruitment department for a while. And really developed that department. We were bringing in people like that by the thousands going up to the schools, the SILs in Norman, Oklahoma, and in South Dakota. And we have another in Oregon, and people were filling up those schools. We really had a going concern. We started an organization called the Wycliffe Information Service. And people would write in, and then we would answer their letters and invite them to come see about us, you know. And then from there, I moved to Dallas and went back to school and started working in the training program for what we call support personnel. That is, people who are not actually in the tribe doing the linguistic work, but people who are working in the cities and main centers as what we call them support personnel. They're the ones who keep everything up and running. So when the translators need something, they have them to go to, and they're the ones who supply the needs and supply provisions and keep everything going out in the villages where the translators are living. And so I wound up working in a training program for them so that they could also, you know, fit into the culture and be really Christ-like examples in a culture wherever they were living. And that was pretty important for our relationship with the governments of the countries we were working in.
And were you able, did you have to be invited by the country or have permission from the country to go in?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yes. We had a lot of, what do you call it, just contacts with government officials, with our officials, and working out arrangements and agreements and stuff so that we could work in these countries.
And Catherine, what did you do after that time?
After what? Suriname?
Yes,
We finished the New Testament and brought it up to Dallas to be published in '90. And then I continued a study program at Fuller Seminary. And that went on for, all through the '90s. And I also had to take care of my mother, increasingly so. I was at home working on this degree and taking care of my mother. And I did that until around 2000, my mother died. 2001, I finished the degree and moved to Dallas. Okay. And I taught there at the Graduate Institute of, Applied Linguistics. Graduate Institute of Applied Linguistics. And Phyllis was living in Dallas then too.
That's right, you got reunited again.
And ended up living across the street from me.
Mm-hmm.
And Phyllis, I believe you mentioned that you had served a time in New Zealand.
New Zealand, Australia, yeah.
When was that?
I went to Australia to be a temporary partner for a woman who was about to finish up her translation. Her partner had married and moved away, and she just needed someone to be with her for a couple of years while she finished. So I just went down there to be with her as a temporary partner while she finished, and I wound up typing a lot of the Wicmunken New Testament. Every other letter was an A, and my little finger was so sore.
And
Catherine, were you assigned anywhere else overseas?
Yeah. After I finished the New Testament stuff, it mixed in with that going to school in California was trips overseas to Thailand and to Guatemala and here and there doing workshops. Along the way somewhere I had become a translation consultant. Our branch was small. We only had 2 or 3 teams in it. And so when they needed a translation consultant, and so I got nominated for that. Everybody in the branch was some sort of consultant. So anyway, that grew, and so I spent time going overseas for those kind of things.
Well, you're still doing it.
Yeah, I do some tutoring kind of thing, consulting over the internet, but that's very limited in what you can really do. Unless you're on Skype and you're doing face-to-face, then you can. But yeah.
Well, I bet the internet made a big difference in how you could communicate with people in the foreign areas.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine when you were saying in the 60s and 70s, working with somebody in translation, I guess the only way was to mail things back and forth, and
Pretty much.
the old-fashioned mail way, not the electronic mail.
Or hand carry things. You know, when everybody was traveling, I don't know how many times coming.
I remember the first computer I ever saw.
Oh, dear.
We were well into our program before they came out. Well, when we first started, there was a computer in Oklahoma, and the thing filled up a room, and it had things that looked like refrigerators all around the room. And that was when we got some of our language work lined up for us. But by the time we finished, every translator had a computer, and it certainly saved us a lot of trouble.
My first experience with a computer was working with Ken Williams on his dissertation. He had all of this data, and I was punching cards.
Oh, never mind.
Well, let's fast forward a little while. And Catherine, I think you were the one who originally started looking into Advent Christian Village. Is that right?
Well, yeah. In Dallas, I was thinking about retirement. Pat Powell, I was living with Pat Powell and Helen Passwater. And so Dennis Olson was there, and I mentioned to him about thinking about going to Orlando, because Wycliffe was thinking about opening a retirement place there. And he said, "Oh, you're not going to go there. It's going to be too expensive." I said, "Oh." He said, "Try Penny Farms." So I tried Penny Farms, had a nice conversation with the marketing man, young man, and they wanted a whole bunch of money up front and wanted you to get twice as much as you needed on an income basis and all kinds of stuff. And I told the guy that I didn't think we could do that. And he said, "Check into Advent Christian Village." He says, "They have some sort of grants or something. Anyway, it may be what you're looking for." And sure enough, it was.
And after your inquiry, how many people came from Dallas to live at Advent Christian Village?
Oh, heavens.
Well, let's see, we came over here in a caravan. Let's see, there was the 3 that from our household, because Phyllis came to help drive, and Jeannie came to move over here, and Ellen Abbott came to help drive. There were about 6 of us, and 4 of us moved in at the time, and then later Phyllis did. And then Georgia Hunter followed us.
Yeah.
Well, that one phone call brought us a lot of new members. And we
It
appreciate that.
did. It did. It brought us at least 6 people.
And the 2 of you live in Park of the Pines.
Yes.
Well, Phyllis, tell us about your driving here and what your thoughts were on the way.
Oh, my goodness. In the meantime, I had left Wycliffe, and I joined the Episcopal Church and become ordained in the Episcopal Church. So my thoughts were, I'm going to retire in Mexico, because I had been in contact with the bishop there, and he wanted me to come down and work with them. And so I was ready to go to Mexico. Well, when the time came, that just sort of all fell apart. It just didn't happen. So Catherine, about that time, invited me to drive her over here, help her drive, and so I thought, well, I'll go see this place. She's been telling me I should check it out. And I thought, well, I'll go check it out. So I did, and while I was here, I thought, if I wanted to go to Mexico, I could go from here as well as from Dallas. And this is pretty nice. I like this place. So Catherine did all the research and she told me from years before, you've got to get your application in over there. Get it in, get it in. I thought, nah, I'm going to Mexico. But after I came, I got it in. And then I moved here. You came in April and I came in August that same
We
year.
moved in May.
You moved in May? Yeah, and I came in August.
And
That's
Georgia
right.
came not long after
Yeah,
that.
a year or two.
Oh, no, it was not that long, just a pretty
Because
short.
she stayed with me for
Yeah,
a couple of months or something while she was checking the place out, and then she moved back. So, yeah, but it wasn't too much longer.
no, it wasn't much longer.
Well, what has surprised you most, Catherine, about living at Advent Christian Village?
You know what? Nothing. I can't think of anything that I expected. I did not expect a formal, closed, really expensive kind of thing. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect anything really after we, other than it was a nice place to live. Yes, I've been quite favorably impressed with most things.
Good.
Yeah.
And Phyllis, for you?
Oh, I think the thing that I'm most impressed with is the place is so beautiful. It's just like living in a park. And every place is so beautiful, you know, I love that. And I think that's probably one of my biggest surprises, that a place that is so secure, so safe, and so beautiful. What more could I ever ask for?
Well, Catherine, I know that you and I over time have worked together on one of your volunteer projects. What else? Tell us about your special ministry to felines.
Well, when I first got here, I'm a cat lover, animal lover, and the situation with the cats in the village troubled me. They were all over the place, around behind the cafe and here and there, and they were hungry, and the administration said don't feed them because they thought, I think it thought if they would let me feed them, and they would pay the bill. And they agreed.
And how many cats do you think over the years you've taken to be spayed and neutered?
I just made a list and I have 128.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And tell the viewers a little bit about what happens as a community of spayed and neutered cats live in an area.
Well, if they are fed, they're spayed and neutered, and the thing kind of stabilizes. They themselves will run off anything invading their territory. And
I've noticed a noticeable difference in the number of mice and snakes around my house. Since the cats have been here, no problem.
I know it. They keep the mice down. It's good to have them around. The snakes don't like them either. So the thing is, it stabilizes the thing, and we have now probably half as many as we had when I started.
But
There have been no kittens born here to the CACV cats since I started. And that's been 10 years. But they dropped off sometimes. But now I have some avenues of getting them adopted. So if it's a young kitten or a cat that's tame, which often they are, and they can be passed on through the adoption thing. Dr. Tracy Daniels takes care of it. She adopts them out through PetSmart in Lake City. So a lot of them go that way. Some of the older ones are getting up to, they're over 10 years old, getting up toward 15, and they're dying because they're old, you know.
But that's a long time for a cat to live outdoors.
It is.
Yeah.
30 years I understood was it.
That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah, well, some of them are way over 10 years old.
Well, we are a retirement community.
Well, that's wrong. That's what goes on here.
Phyllis, tell our viewers a little bit about your work as a volunteer and as a deacon at St. Luke's Episcopal Church.
Yeah, I ordained as a deacon in the Episcopal Church, and so I've really been involved with the Episcopal Church St. Luke's here in Live Oak. And we've had a couple of things that have been really significant to me, and I hope to our community. First, we started teaching English as a second language, and it's mostly Hispanics, but we've had other people in as well. And the classes grew from maybe 10 people over at Pepe's at the restaurant. We moved to the Catholic Church, and a lot of our students came from the Catholic Church, and so we had classes over there, and we had 30 or 40 students over there. And then we came to the Episcopal Church, and they made a place for us so that nothing else could happen on Mondays and Thursday nights. And so we were able to have classes there and divide the students up into different classes and classrooms, and it was so much better. We had a nursery so people could bring their children. And we would generally start out with about 40 students in a semester and wind up with maybe 20, maybe half of that or more that would finish the semester. So, and we had these classes for over about 10 years. I came in August of 2008. We started classes in January of 2009. And so they've been constant every Monday and Thursday night in the spring semester and fall semester ever since. So this is the first year we've just retired from the classes, and the students now, they have a program at River Oaks where the students can go. So we're trying to shift students over to them now, because I just need to retire a little bit. Not wholly, fully, but we also have a Cuba ministry. And the people in the congregation and in the community really have contributed to installing a wonderful water purification system in our sister church in Cuba. When I first came, the rector of the church, Father Don Woodrum, said, we have a sister church in Cuba, but we haven't been in touch with them. We want you to get in touch. Oh, good. How do I do that? But we did it. We got in touch with them, and we've been sending people down to visit them every year ever since. We installed this wonderful water system, and
for our viewers, tell us what that means for the people there.
oh my goodness. Pure water in Cuba is at a premium, and they have to buy bottled. After we installed this water purification system, it is a really, really good one. And a man in the church, his name was Richard Wadera, designed it, and it is fabulous. And a year or so ago, I was on a trip to visit them in Cuba, and a lady came and was getting water, and she didn't know that I knew anything about it. And she was telling me how wonderful this system was. It just helped them, their whole community, so much. And they all needed this pure water, and people were coming in by droves. And the lady wound up saying, and now nobody in our barrio has diarrhea anymore. Yay, that's what I wanted to hear.
And it's such an important part of health.
Oh,
Good health.
it's everything. It means so much.
I know that being a support to each other and other people here in the village, you are both volunteering in a lot of ways too. Anything else you want to talk about volunteerism or that you're doing?
If anybody wants to volunteer to help us with cats, we'll be happy to have that.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming and sitting down and sharing with us today. You have both led interesting lives, and to me, when I began learning your stories, to know how they've intertwined through quite a number of decades, not just years.
Right.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and look for future episodes of Front Porch Conversations here at Advent Christian Village. Thanks for watching.